Let's talk about exactly that, Sandra Smith. Thank you very much. We're going to bring in now Steve Curnutte. He is president of Innsbank Mortgage. He is joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. Steve, Brian Sullivan, thanks very much for joining us. You know, we hear a lot, Sandra, talking about tighter credit, harder to get a mortgage, but yet nearly 5 million existing homes are expected to be sold this year. So some people are still getting mortgages, correct?
Yeah, that's right. They're still getting mortgages. You know, there's been so much gloom and doom in the press and everywhere we look, and gas prices and commodity and everything else. The Case Shiller index comes out and sort of scares everybody to death. But, you know, you just mentioned some bright spots in there. And it's left to us to sort of read the tea leaves of the Case Shiller index. One of the things that we have to understand is that the index itself didn't accurately predict the increases in some of the areas of the country. And I don't think it's accurately predicting some of these precipitous drops that we see. The bright spot is, or one thing that we have to at least pay attention to, is that these cities, these MSAs that she was mentioning, Charlotte and Dallas, we have to at least now know that as a country, we've got to figure out a way forward. I mean, from a policy standpoint, from a banking standpoint, and we can look to those places for some clues, I think.
Well, you know, we're trying to find, the theme of this show for me anyway, is to try to find some bright spots out there. It's kind of my own personal theme for today. You know, listen, Charlotte has been holding up very well. We know some of the Pacific Northwest has done okay. Portland and Seattle, they're growing. Yeah. Sounds like our guest out in Palo Alto is doing fine. Yeah, Boston surprised me a little bit to the upside because they had a big run up, started to come down. Looks like they could be stabilizing. Any other areas you think might stabilize sooner rather than later?
Well, sure. And in fact, let's take just those that you mentioned and let's try to find out what some parallels are. One of the things that we can learn is that some of the areas that have favorable income taxation from a state standpoint, like Texas,
yours,
for example, like Tennessee, exactly.
I was in your town last week. I was out at the Nissan HQ down in Franklin. Looked to me like
interviewed this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Looks like Cool Springs is doing all right.
Yeah, you know what? Cool Springs is fine. This area, because of favorable income taxation, has really helped us. And that's a lesson we need to learn moving forward. In fact, another lesson we can learn is that some of the areas that had really onerous, they called them impact fees, which are basically fees levied by the municipality saying to developer, hey, you're going to build this subdivision and we need to tax it because you're going to have an impact on our infrastructure. But that's good and it raises money, but if it goes too far, those prices get thrown down to the consumer, and all that does is hyper-accelerate an area that's already growing too fast. So we can learn some things about taxation. We can also learn some things about the fact that we now have this restrictor plate in place from energy prices. So gas prices are making people that have to commute farther, where there are areas of more suburban sprawl, they're making those prices deteriorate more quickly. So some of the bright spots are, let's think about areas where good fundamentals are still there, where there weren't a lot of second homes and investment properties, as in the Sun Belt that you've already noted. Let's look at areas that have good taxation, like your interview that you did with Nissan had a lot to do with the relocation and why companies are moving there. And we look at other areas of the country that are still attracting the same thing. At Innsbank, you know, we're trying to figure out ways that we can do always what we've been doing, which is make good loans to good people that make sense for the borrower and the bank.
All right. Hey, you know what, Steve? The whole theme today is trying to find some good news. You brought a little bit in.
All right.
We appreciate it. Why not?
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me. I love your show.
No, appreciate that. Thanks very much. All right. We're going to continue the